All right. Now there is supposed to be an automatic feature where it records who has come to the meeting, but I don't see that. So I'm going to write down your names, and I'm gonna I, we're gonna ask you guys for some help deciding a couple things or figuring out a couple things, if you don't mind. So I have, is it Tavia?
Tavia.
Tavia. Then I have, is it Nadine?
Yeah.
And how do you say your last name?
Purington.
Purinton. Okay. And then we have Brianna.
Which Brianna? There's two of us.
Hoffines.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. All right. There's a couple things about this course, and I wanted to just kind of give like an outline for it, and then you guys can ask questions about it. We don't really have a textbook other than the link to Sundiata, and there are a couple things that, okay, and Aubrey just got in. What I'm trying to do is, if there's stuff that I need you guys to read, I'm going to try to get you like free resources, because I don't really want you to have to buy any extra books for this. And a lot of the information we're just going to talk about um, in our discussions as well. Each of the different modules, there's going to be a discussion component or a reflection component, and some of them you'll write stuff down. Some of them we'll talk about it in this. And if you miss the video meeting where we talk about it, then you'll just write about. There'll be a section where you can write about it and submit a couple paragraphs. I'm not going to require anything that is too rigorous. We're probably talking about, um, if it's writing, a couple paragraphs of writing at the most. Uh, you're not taking an art class because you have dreamed since being a little child of becoming a professional writer. If that was the case, you would probably be taking a writing class. So, but the writing is necessary sometimes so that we can record some of the thoughts and some of the impressions we get about the material. For attendance and participation, everybody's going to be responsible for 14 of these videos, either attending them live or talking about them. And talking about them is basically going to be mentioning 3 things that you learned during the video, or 3 things that you remember about the video. So these are all going to be posted. I'm going to send links to them to everybody as well. But the people that show up don't have to do that. What I will be doing is, there's going to be another module that will just be the attendance module. And in that, each of the weeks will be listed. And I will put in that you attended. And if you don't see your name as being attended, then you'll have to watch the video and respond to it. Does that make sense to everybody? And the reason why I'm doing these videos is, like I said, to answer questions, but also when I do a demonstration, I want you guys to be able to see what I'm talking about. I'm a number of different things. One of them is a bookbinder. I do a lot of bookbinding, and so that's why I'm having everybody make a sketchbook. We're actually going to be making 5 of these, so you have things to record in, and you'll be responsible ultimately for 35 entries, and that's about 3 a week, give or take. The entries don't have to be sketches; they can be written too, but at least 24 of those 35 entries should be at least scribbles and things like that. If you do 3 a week, that's not a problem at all. If you don't do them and then decide you're super bored over Thanksgiving break and do all of your entries over Thanksgiving break, I don't honestly really care. But hopefully, as you go on with the term, as you work out visual ideas, you'll be able to scribble notes. You'll be able to copy down things. My sketchbooks are a combination of different things. I will do drawings. I don't know. Can you see the drawing? And then I'll also write things down. So there's multiple drawings, but I also will write notes of things that I need to do. And it doesn't really matter which you do, but since this is a visual arts class, then you'll be responsible for like 24 entries that are at least visual scribbles of some sort. And you saw how careful my entries are. I mean, I'm being kind of sarcastic. They're not careful at all. They're generally just things that help me work through ideas visually. I'm not going to require you to keep a sketchbook where you have to do life drawing every week. I think personally there's a lot more to art than that. I mentioned in some of the readings that you guys went through that art is an awful lot more of a path of communication that is not bounded by the restrictions of language. And that's kind of the approach of art that we're going to take. Would you guys like to see a demonstration of making the sketchbook first, or do you want to yak a little bit first? Everybody's on mute, so I can't hear you. This is the time to give feedback.
I want to see an example.
Okay. We will do, I will go through and do 2 examples showing you how to make this, all right? What you will need is a piece of heavier paper and some white paper, or it can be any color, doesn't matter. Lighter the paper, the better, generally, if you're going to be making it for a sketchbook. And you'll need 5 to 7 pages. For this one, I want to do 5 to 10 pages, sorry. I'm going to do 7. Let's see, 5, 6, 7. So that's what this is. And what I'm doing is lining these up so that I have the heavier cover paper on the exterior, and I have the paper for my sketching on inside. And I've also brought with me a rather comically oversized spoon and a pair of scissors. We're not going to be using the pair of scissors for cutting. I'm going to get my surface ready here. As much as possible, I would like you guys to use materials that you find around the house, as much as you can. Like we're going to be making our own paint from things like coffee and tea. We could probably even make it from Kool-Aid as well. And we're going to make pastels from stuff that generally are relatively easy to get. Hopefully they're easy to get, but I want to use as much recycled stuff as we can get a hold of during this course. You probably will have to buy brushes at some point. Hopefully we can make a pen. You can make brushes and pens out of things like twigs and sticks and stuff like that as well. We're going to be doing elements where we're just making marks, seeing what kind of marks we can make. And if you want to, you can use the pens that you already have as well. So we have this, and I have the heavier cover on the outside, and I'm going to rotate this screen down a little bit so you can kind of see what I'm doing. All right, can you see that? What I'm going to be doing is I'm bringing this over and folding it, trying to line up the corners as well as possible. Going to start a crease there. I'm going to use my comically oversized spoon to kind of burnish that crease quite a bit. I also have some paper towels. Sometimes the spoons will leave a little bit of gray marks on the paper, and I don't necessarily want that. So I'm just kind of putting the paper towel in between the spoon and the paper so that when I burnish the crease down, I'm not staining the paper gray. So that's where that is. And that's what it's going to look like. If it doesn't line up perfectly, I don't really care. It doesn't matter. Now I'm going to open it up again, and you can see that I have a crease right through the middle. I'm going to hold the paper together, and I have here a single hole punch. I'm going to line up as best I can that hole punch along that crease. And I'm going to go in just as far as I can. See that I've got that? And do the same thing on this side. All right, so we've got a hole about 3/4 of an inch in from either end of the paper. Can everybody see that? All right. Now I went to the craft store and I just got a bag of rubber bands like this. What we're looking for is rubber bands that are about this long, about this big, and they can stretch about like that, because we're going to use this to bind our sketchbooks. I also asked everybody to get chopsticks. So I've got these from some random restaurant, and I'm going to split them and just grab one chopstick. To bind this, I'm going to take the rubber band, make a little pinch on it, and push that little pinched area through the loop, or I'm sorry, through the hole I just punched, so that I have a little teeny loop sticking out the back of the sketchbook. All right. Then I'm going to take my chopstick, I'm going to put that through the loop and hold it in place like this. Then I'm going to pull the loop back through into the body of the book. Can everybody see this? Now what I'm going to do is stretch it, the rubber band, across the inside of the book and kind of pinch it at this end with my thumb. And then this is the hardest part. I'm going to stick that another little loop, the other end of the rubber band, through the back, or through that hole that I punched, through the back of the sketchbook again, and loop it over the chopstick. Can everybody see that? Center the chopstick, and now I have a sketchbook. And that's what I'm going to use to make sketches for this class, or to make any sort of a record for this class. Now that's a pretty simple thing. This is kind of boring. Everybody needs to make 5 of these. And I got some other stuff that I wanted to show you that I can also use for covers. These I just got at a craft store like Michael's or Joann's. And these are all 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, so they'll fit just perfectly. You can even do this with, like, anybody go shopping at for groceries at Harmon's or Smith's? They have brown paper bags. You could take a brown paper bag and cut it down to 8.5 by 11 and use that for your cover. But I want you to make 5. I don't want them all to look the same. Now, I showed you how to do that with a chopstick. We can also do that with, this is a skewer. And I just chipped off the end so that it doesn't stab anybody in the eyeball. This is a pencil. I also have here I have some brushes, some Japanese style ink brushes. And you can use one of those for the spine. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to make another sketchbook. This time I'm going to have 10 sheets of paper. I think that 10 is going to be too thick for my hole punch to go through, so I'm going to take off 4 of them. So I have a stack of 6 pages and a stack of 4. I'm going to fold those 6 pages, put my paper towel down, and use my spoon to kind of burnish that spine flat. Let's see, and I'm going to use this paper with those 4 pages that I separated out and do the same thing. The reason I'm showing you this is because you can fold several different groupings of pages and punch them, and then just set them inside of each other and line up the holes where you punched, and then make your sketchbook that way. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and punch the holes here. And I'm going to do that again with the other, just the plain pages that I did. In bookbinding, when you have different groups of pages that you're folding together like this, they're called signatures. But we're going to combine these and make them into one signature. So we've got the holes punched in that. And now I'm going to just line these two up. So I have a full 10 pages in my sketchbook. So I've got my rubber band that I'm using. Poke that through the hole. I'm going to take my brush. This is the trickiest part of the whole thing, trying to get that rubber band stretched so that you can hook it around whatever you're using on the other side. It doesn't want to cooperate completely. Okay, there we go. So now I have the rubber band on the inside, and the outside has that brush as the spine. So how long did that take me to make? These 2 books. It's like, what, 10 minutes maybe? Now, the thing that's really cool about this is nobody has to know how little time you spent. And you can get different colors of rubber bands. You can do different things with this. If you have Kool-Aid or any sort of colored drink like that, you can soak your chopsticks in those overnight, and it will turn them into a cool color. You can use that. You can use different materials for this. Like this was just textured paper, but you can use shopping bag, the paper shopping bag, cut that to the right size. You can even iron it with your using an ironing board to give it a little bit of a different texture. You could even take that paper bag, put it over the sidewalk, rub over it with a crayon, and that will pick up some of the texture of the sidewalk and use that as your cover. Or you could use pull out a piece of sketch paper from a sketch pad you have for a different class, make the cover out of that, and draw on it, or paint on it, or make. We're going to be making potato stamp prints, and you can do that on the covers in the future. But I want you to make 5, and I don't want any of the 5 to look the same. I want them to be be different. So use different materials and stuff like that if you possibly can. But like I said, there's also a skewer here. There's pencils. You can use different lengths, types of brushes for this. So you can use, what other kinds of things do you think you could use? What kind of covering could you do?
Could we do like pictures of stuff that we like and stuff like that?
Yeah, if you wanted to, there's a couple different ways you could do that. You could make a plain cover like this and cut the pictures out and glue them on, or you could print them on a heavier paper and just use that for your cover. And you know, if you're good with Photoshop or anything like that, you could make a collage with the different photos and put that on. Maybe even run a filter through it so it looks like there's a watercolor filter that you can get. That might look really interesting. And then when you submit these, you could have them set like this and have all 5 of them in a fan like that. Take a photo of that and submit it like that so we can see what kinds of different stuff you have. You can also do, I know if you go to some of the craft stores that will have different colors of paper that you can use on the inside. Office supply stores will have different colors of paper. Walmart has different colors of paper, different styles and textures of paper as well that you can use. And that might be really interesting. What kind of different things could you use for the spine?
Did you just go find like a stick outside to use?
Yeah, that could be really cool. That would be very cool. And you could either break it off with some wire cutters, or you could just break it off by hand and have kind of an interesting flare out of the twig. But there's nothing that says this has to be straight. It has to be straight enough to support the rubber band and the paper as you stretch it across the spine, but it doesn't have to be completely straight. So a stick that's strong enough to hold that rubber band would look really cool. Another thing you could do potentially is use your hole punch to, you have the paper crease like this, punch a hole in the middle with your hole punch, and then use 2 rubber bands. In fact, let's do that really quick. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to take the rubber band off of this really quick, and I'll show you what I mean. If I go in about halfway, so about like that with my hole punch. Okay, so I made that little hole there. I can find 2 smaller rubber bands. They don't even have to be the same size. But I'm going to poke that through the center. And I have another second rubber band here, and I'll poke that through the center as well. And I'm going to take my chopstick and put it through those 2 loops. I'm sorry, I know when I do this, I look like a grandpa. Okay, so that's 1 rubber band there. So now we have a little bit fancier spine with a rubber band, 2 rubber bands in it, going through that center hole that we punched and then looping around the chopstick on either side. So there's I mean, you could do other variations of that too. You could do maybe 5 holes and have several different rubber bands, or 4 holes, or whatever you want to do. There's lots of different kinds of things you can do with this style of binding, but I would like you to kind of explore it a little bit. All you got to do is 5 of them. All right. Anybody have any ideas of what other kinds of stuff you could do?
You could use a toothbrush.
A toothbrush would be a really cool idea. That'd be excellent. Hey, Alex, I am writing you down too. I think a toothbrush would be kind of fun. And then if you had, if you could find rubber bands that could look kind of white, like dental floss, that might be kind of neat. That'd be fun. So there's pencils, chopsticks, brushes that you can use. Tavia said a stick. Anything that is sturdy enough. I'm also wondering if you guys get those wire reinforced fake flowers. That'd be kind of a goofy one. Let's see. There is another person that joined us that I don't have down. The initials are Brianna Frey. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I joined a bit late.
Well, and I hope you feel really terrible. Okay. I don't know if anybody can pick up, but I am slightly sarcastic. Okay, but does everybody see how to make that book? Do you have some different ideas of different stuff you can do? One thing that might be interesting to do, do any of you have like old paintbrushes around, just like house paintbrushes? If you guys take, say, Kool-Aid, something like that, which has a really strong, obnoxious color to it, mix the Kool-Aid in about a 1/4 cup of water or 1/2 cup of water, and use that old gnarly paintbrush. You could do some quick painting on one of these cover pages and let that dry, and then use that as your outside cover. That would be kind of interesting. And just doing a texture, can you see kind of how this is, it has almost like a horizontal stain to it? Some of the other things that you can use could be shoe polish, covering it with shoe polish. I kind of recommend against that though, because shoe polish takes forever to dry. But there are other things that you can use too. Make up some of your coffee that you could make. Just smear it with the coffee. Dip an old rag into the coffee and smear that over the paper. That makes kind of an interesting thing. It doesn't smell too bad. And just, I would just like you to kind of think about what kind of creative stuff that you could do on those. And if you don't want to paint them, you could also use this kind of decorative paper. I would hesitate to use wrapping paper, because wrapping paper generally is quite a bit thinner than even printer paper, but there are different kinds of things that you can do. In about a month, I'd like to revisit this, and if you guys would be interested, would you guys be interested in like sewing a book? There's 2 different kind of book styles that we could. Alex says no. Okay, if he's outvoted, then we'll look at that again. But if you guys are interested in doing like a really simple 5-hole sewing, we could do that. But if this is good, if this is a good enough introduction to bookbinding, then that's what we'll use. But these are the books that you'll use all the way through the term. Since you're only responsible for 35 entries, you could probably just use that in one and then save the others and give them away to people that you really like or people that you dislike, depending on whether or not you're happy about how the book turned out. There's actually a couple cultures around the world that created stains and paints from cattle urine and feces, but we will not be using those. but just, I'm not really putting it out there for different options that you, as long as you just, this is an online class and I don't have to smell it, you can do whatever you want, as long as you can take a photo of it. Not of the process, but of the end result. All right. Now, as you go through those first couple modules, I'm going to be adding more stuff every week. I'm going to try to add at least 2 or 3 modules a week so that you always see that there's more stuff to do, but I don't want to overwhelm everybody all at once. And I'm trying to keep it down so that you can accomplish everything you need to each week in about 9 hours. But keep in mind as well that the project module should be right around that. And then there's going to be other stuff that just goes the length of the term that you'll work on a little bit here and a little bit there. Like we'll talk more about that final research paper and the final exhibit that we're going to do. I want to explain that a little bit. Did everybody get a chance to watch the Sundiata video? Or is just reading the Sundiata book? The reason why I picked that is that's going to be the theme of our final exhibit. And we're going to do a couple modules where we talk about the art of Mali. And you're not going to be copying anything. You're just going to be using that to inform what you do. And the example I gave was making a cell phone cover. Now, I am pretty confident that the 12th century did not see very many cell phones. But you could make a cell phone cover. You start with one that you buy at the Dollar Tree, and then you add stuff to it, you glue stuff on it, and generate something that is a cell phone cover that looks like it may be consistent with what you might imagine people in the Tale of Sundiata had access to. And that's where I want your mind to be. I'm pretty sure that they didn't have stickers in the 12th century. But if you wanted to design stickers that are consistent, that might be something that would be interesting. I want you to just be thinking about that in the back of your head, and we will be looking at it again throughout the term. But before we get there, I want you to watch that video, and if you would like to read Sundiata as well, but as long as you watch that video, I think that will be good to give you an idea. And we're going to be doing a module, like I said, where we actually look at some of the artwork from that time period in that area of the world. So you get a feel for the kinds of visual rhythms and the visual textures that we want to kind of express. I think I mentioned some of the projects will be things like you'll go around and make rubbings of things. And that will be 1 week. And then the next week you'll use those rubbings, you'll cut them up and use that to create a collage. So we'll do different things like that. Some of the textures will be sculptural. Some of the projects will be sculptural. Some of them you'll actually have to make something. But I'm trying to shy away from things that you already visited in like your 2nd grade art class. But I don't want them to be daunting and intimidating either. I did mention one of the things we're going to do is a potato stamp. We're going to make 3 different potato stamps. We're going to stamp with 3 different colors and make a multi-part stamp for one of the projects. That may sound like it's too much to do, but when you get into it, it won't take you very long, and it may be rather interesting to you. And there's a number of different ways to make the inks for the stamps. One of the simplest ways is to actually add Kool-Aid to Elmer's glue and use that for your ink. From your eyes, I can see you probably don't believe me, but actually it will work. Or we'll add other different colorings directly to the Elmer's glue that you get, so that we can use that as an ink. So there will be different things that we do. I promise that this would not be more than about 45 minutes, and we're closing in on that. I did want to ask for questions. So does anybody have any questions that we can talk about? The questions that you have about the syllabus that you've seen so far, and about some of the rough descriptions of things that we'll be doing? Does anybody have any questions?
So about how many assignments will we have per week?
There's going to be some small assignments, and you'll have about one project to do per week. But I'm trying to do it so that you're not responsible for more than about 9 hours per week. All right. And that's one of the reasons why you need to have the work log as well, because the work log will help you be aware of your time so you don't spend too much, and so that you don't spend too little. Like if you are doing something, these getting your supplies together, making 5 sketchbooks, going through all the materials for these first couple modules where it's watching videos and reading. I am hoping that you don't spend more than 9 hours. If you have done everything and you find out you've only spent like 45 minutes doing it all, it might be interesting to go back over and maybe scan some of the Sundiata story, or do some more drawing and sketching or some more creative things on the covers of the sketchbook so that it's more interesting for you. I don't see how you could only spend 45 minutes, but I was teaching an art class where one of the assignments was you had to spend 5 hours on a single drawing, which I will not be putting you through, by the way. I saw Aubrey's eyes get really, really big. But he bragged to the entire class that his drawing of an egg, a twig, and a banana only took him 40 minutes. And so sadly, since one of the requirements was that many hours, he got a rather poor grade. I do want you to be responsible for your time. If you find that you've gone to hour 12, unless you are getting that, you're going for the A+ stratosphere grade, you're not going to be required to do that much work. I did have one student who put in about 25 hours a week. I don't know how she was able to do it, but she did. And her staff was spectacular. Again, this is an introduction to art class. You guys are not going to be making stuff for a graduate level portfolio. That's not what we're looking to do. I want you to, my vision for this class is to have you experience a lot of different art, be able to develop the language so you can describe what you see and talk about your own work, and create some stuff that you're happy that you've created, be able to describe what you're doing to somebody else that has no clue, and ultimately enjoy the process. So this is not designed to be a drudgery course. This is designed to be so that in December, you're going to look back and say, wow, that's so cool. I made all this stuff and it was kind of fun, and I learned quite a bit too. So that's the goal for me. Any other questions? All right, if there's one big question I have is, does Tuesday night work for you guys? Okay, because if Tuesday night at this time, what's that?
I just have soccer, and so I may just be rushing from the field to get online.
Okay.
So, but it should work. Okay.
When you guys do get online, if you do not see that I have marked you down as being here, or I didn't ask you for your name, like Brianna, when you get on, just let me know that you're here so I can mark you down as being here. Okay. And like I said, I'm also this is recorded. I'm going to post it on as soon as I can after we're done. And as soon as it's posted, I will send the link to everybody as well. And you can, even though you don't have to look at that, if you're confused at how to make the sketchbook or whatever we're doing that week, use it as a reference as well. Okay. Anybody have any last questions before we wind up? All right. That means everybody knows everything and you guys are going to get A's, right? Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you very much. If this time works for you, that's great. If there's any issues or anything like that, let me know. But I will plan on doing this the first Tuesday of every week through the term. All right. Hopefully, there's only going to be one Tuesday in every week, but who knows? All right, guys. Thank you very much, and I will talk to you again next week. All righty. Okay. We'll see you.